I've said before that I have a fascination for full motion video, or FMV games, titles that incorporate live footage into their gameplay. Part of it's a nostalgia for games similar to the ones I grew up with, but I think it's also because FMV titles are a genre that's rife with experimentation. These games hit the peak of their popularity when CDs were a brand new format overflowing with storage space, meaning that game developers couldn't include movies, which drove them to get creative with their designs. Most of these experiments were horrid failures, but it's an intriguing niche genre that still survives to this day. For better or for worse. And because I'm fascinated with FMV, I've also been fascinated by the Sega CD, a CD-based expansion for the Sega Genesis that was a hotbed for FMV games at its time. Take an unrefined genre and cross it with cheap hardware, and the Sega CD library is a goldmine of, good for you for trying releases. Unfortunately, functioning Sega CDs and libraries are really expensive, so my thirst for this knowledge went unquenched, until my friend Shnick provided me with a jailbroken PlayStation Classic that can also run Sega CD games through a RetroArch operating system. So I thought I'd take you on a little tour of some Sega CD games that caught my eye, and I think a good place to start would be Surgical Strike. In this game, you're a pilot in the United States Army tasked with stopping a terrorist rampaging through the Middle East.
I am invincible.
To do this, you are given the most bleeding edge of stealth hardware. A big-ass hovercraft with a Gatling gun and a rocket launcher strapped to it. Yes, tremble in fear of my swamp car! The game looks like a rail shooter. You scroll along firing at enemies with either your Gatling gun or your rockets, but not only can you steer yourself at forks in the road, but the game actually has a consistent world map on the pause screen where you need to navigate to your objectives, adding a major thing to keep track of in the midst of unadulterated chaos. Every time that you shoot an enemy, it cuts to a video clip of your weapon firing, and then it cuts to a clip of whatever you shot blowing the fuck up! And it looks like they took footage of a lot of practical explosions! The game's structure is confusing and disorienting at first, but it's also incredibly satisfying. It's like if Michael Bay made a video game strung out on crack. The stop-and-go nature does lead to a little confusion, though. If you're at an intersection and you shoot an enemy, you'll tend to miss that intersection, or sometimes the game will do U-turns without telling you, so you need to pay attention. The game is also pretty difficult. You have limited ammo, and every target that you don't shoot takes a big chunk out of your life bar, and it takes practice to have the reaction times for shit like tanks just rolling out into the street and blowing 2/3 of your health clean off. The objectives are also dickishly designed. This first level, you need to blow up 3 missiles and then head to a command center. Problem: the command center has 2 entrances, and one instantly kills you! After several runs, I managed to get to the bad guy's hideout without having died. I did like a perfect run, and then I died at the entrance to the enemy base, and had to restart?
You have elevated being deaf, dumb, and blind to a damn art form!
What the? So if you die at the final objective, it just wipes out all your extra lives? That's not fair! But I finally got to the end of the first level, made it to the missile control center, shot up the guards, bad guy gets away since it's only the first level, I used missiles to blow the crap out of the base and— What?!
Nobody can be that bad a driver.
I still lost?!
What happened to you out there?
Total failure.
Bullshit! That is bullshit! Yeah, Surgical Strike only has 3 levels and about 24 minutes of content, so I guess I shouldn't be surprised the game is balls hard to make it last. But Surgical Strike is still a good example of the cornball over-the-top charm that these old FMV titles can have when they're done right. When they're done wrong, you get crap like Midnight Raiders. In this one, you're a helicopter gunner on a Black Ops mission to rescue a scientist before he's forced to create a virus that'll destroy the world. This is conveyed to you through an opening cutscene that's shot and staged like a Jack Ryan spy movie.
Can you guarantee the safety of my team, Mr. Adams?
If we have to sacrifice, what, a few good men to avoid a nuclear war, so be it.
I kind of like the serious tone and the immersion to the cutscenes, but then we get to the actual gameplay. The game loads up about a 5-second video clip where you have to shoot a single enemy on the screen. Then the game cuts into a rapid-fire sequence of clips showing the kill, your boss and wingmen reacting to your kill, and then you coming up on the next enemy that you need to kill. It's an insanely clunky stop-and-go structure that's trying to feel like a movie and woefully failing. Movies don't tend to have about 700 clips of the line, "Well done, Joker."
Not bad, Joker. Think you can do that again?
Good work, Joker. Now do it again. Good shooting, kid.
Good work, Joker.
You're not half bad.
Not bad, Joker.
Yeah, your call sign is Joker. That totally doesn't get annoying. Some of the clips are friggin' obnoxious, too. You're forced to shoot a small moving target on a wildly juking screen. What, is my pilot drunk? How about I fly the damn chopper and you shoot, old man? A little over 10 minutes in, you reach the facility where the scientist is being held and Joker goes in on foot. Now you're shooting enemy soldiers with even less reaction time. Failing once is an instant game over, whereas before you had lives and continues, but it's nothing that good old emulator save scumming won't fix. Until I found out that this part of the game has an unseen ammo count, and I hit a point where I couldn't shoot any more enemies. Crap in a hat. So once you actually hit the base, you need to be completely flawless and get stuck replaying the opening helicopter levels until you get a perfect run. Fantastic.
Would somebody please show this kid how to shoot?
You know, I can't help but wonder if the abusive game mechanics have something to do with the fact that the game's only half an hour long. You know, call it a hunch. Seriously, Midnight Raiders left me so disgusted for a proper rail shooter that I fired up the Sega CD port of Star Wars Rebel Assault. The graphics and sound quality are a steep drop off from the PC version, which already had it rough when it used footage from the movies. Why are the Blockade Runner and Star Destroyers stained with piss? The first level, you'll recall, is you steering a skyhopper through the canyons on Tatooine, except while the PC's controls were hypersensitive, this version is so stiff that I can't even make the second turn! Seriously, I'm holding right on the control pad, and I'm hitting the wall anyway! I was ready to call it quits right there until I discovered you have to steer up at the same time to improve your turn. Ay caramba! The game still runs extremely slowly, which might be an emulator problem, except this emulator works fine for every other Sega CD game I've tried. You can only fire one laser on the screen at a time, which you'd think would make it harder to hit a target, but the game runs at such a sluggish pace that the difficulty evens out. At least this version of the game doles out passwords after every stage, which is a vast improvement on the PC original, but it also feels like an admission that they didn't use the full ass with this porting job. It's more playable than the PC Rebel Assault is with a mouse, but it's so damn slow that it's just physically painful. This might be the only Sega CD game that I could beat. I just don't want to. Microcosm. Now this is what I'm talking about. A rail shooter where you pilot a tiny submarine flying through some guy's body like Fantastic Voyage or Inner Space, blowing up robots, and I have no idea what most of this stuff you shoot is. Hope those aren't like important cells or anything. The action is smooth, the scrolling FMV runs really cleanly, the controls are responsive, and it's got a groovy techno soundtrack. This one plays pretty well. It's a fairly difficult game, though. None of the enemies die in one shot without extra weapons that run on limited ammo. Your health bar plummets if you take any damage, and levels are long with slim to zero health pickups. It's hard to land hits on enemies without putting yourself into their line of fire, so avoiding damage is vastly more important than dishing it. But the game has a password system, so you don't have to finish the whole campaign in one go or on one set of lives, which is commendable for this era of games. Little baffling that the password is made of rotating, squiggling symbols to where I don't know how you're supposed to write it down, though! It's also neat that they try to make each vehicle that you pilot distinct with different weapons and different ultimate attacks like a smart bomb versus a shield. They did mislabel the levels, though, because level 3 is supposed to be the heart, but they titled it as the femur. Because, you know, it's easy to confuse your thigh bone with all these red valves and shit. So, what's the catch with Microcosm? I couldn't even begin to tell you what the story is about. The game has an opening cutscene that's over 5 minutes long, and all it shows is a cyberpunk dystopian city with some soldiers on top of a building and some helicopters doing nothing!
All sectors, maintain your positions.
You, make sure Sector 4 is clear.
Yes, sir. too close. Robogun moving into position now.
Then it cuts to a lab where some guy is being injected with something by a badly dubbed scientist.
Security could easily have noticed them without my verification.
I didn't know Professor Frink worked as a dub actor. Then soldiers bust in to shoot everyone and bam! Microcosm. What in the hell did any of that have to do with anything? Well, according to the game's instruction manual, this alien planet is being fought over by two massive corporations, one's trying to take over the other by injecting their CEO with a brain-controlling robot, and it's your job to stop it. Except the manual also rambles on for 4 chapters and 20 pages about the game's backstory, as well as a detailed listing of every alien planet in the solar system. Again, you're just flying shrunken through some guy's body! You did not need to write Space Shire 7 to explain the lore of 3D Body Adventure! What is wrong with you? The Adventures of Batman and Robin. Given that there were already 2 different games with this exact name on the Genesis and Super Nintendo, I was expecting another side-scroller, but this is actually a 3D Batmobile driving game. A premise that lots of games keep managing to screw up! Except in this first level, you're not fighting supervillains or chasing down henchmen, you're fighting traffic! You have to get to a bank that's being robbed by Poison Ivy around shitloads of civilian cars on the road, and if you damage too many civilians, the police arrest you and you lose a life. Well, it's certainly an original take on the license. How does Batman fight rush hour traffic to respond to crimes? And how many civilian cars does he wreck on the way there? Once you get through the traffic, you have to fight 2 of Ivy's goons, but their cars drop endless bombs, as well as plants that are damned hard to avoid, and they have health bars the size of Wyoming! How many rockets does Batman need to cram up a car's ass before the damn thing at least slows down? In the second level, you have to chase Poison Ivy herself and take down her car while she lobs more plant monsters at you. It doesn't sound hard, except this fight has at least 5 phases to it, and between each phase, you have to catch up with Ivy while dodging 50,000 trees in the middle of the road! Cut a guy a break, will you? I know there are weapon pickups that are easy to miss because they're small and come up so fast, but none of them seem to help with the trees. Ah, the wonders of the Sega CD. The game's only 1 hour long, so you need to stretch that hour with obscene difficulty. It's a shame that the game doesn't play better because the cutscenes are phenomenal. These sequences are not from a pre-existing episode of Batman the Animated Series. Trust me, I'd remember. The show's production team actually made an entire original episode exclusively for the Sega CD game, complete with most, if not all, of the voice actors returning. This is magnificent!
Hiya, Bat. Wanna fight?
Take me to the Joker. Now!
But then I knew those other losers couldn't put you out of action. At least, not like I can.
I mean, it's not a great episode, but it cycles through tons of villains and it's got some good action. Plus, the game's soundtrack is friggin' awesome. This game pisses me off, but I still have a soft spot for it. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. This has got to be the laziest game on the platform. The game is just a series of fight scenes pulled from the original Power Rangers show, and they slap some quick time event button prompts over the footage. If you miss a prompt, a health bar in the corner goes down, and the footage doesn't change at all to reflect how you're doing. You can pass events and the Rangers still take a hit, or lose a prompt and the Rangers still land a devastating attack. You have 0 input on the actual fight. So if you ever wanted to fiddle with a controller while watching a quarter of an episode of Power Rangers that's been pixelated to shit, the Sega CD has granted your sad, bizarre little wish. Friggin', you can make anything a video game that way!
Take the holes with pepperoni. Fa la 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 la.
They didn't even pick good footage for the game. Fights jump from scene to scene to where it's obvious that tons of footage is missing. They have the Megazords destroyed only for them to be fine after 1 minute. Later episodes are cut to the bone, and the Rangers just fight Goldar and the Green Ranger over and over again. About 25 minutes in, the game ends, and you're told that there are more levels on the intermediate difficulty. Yeah, slight problem. I tried the intermediate difficulty, and not only does the game get brutal with how quick you need to be, but the game repeatedly rejected correct inputs. You literally had one job! What the hell, man? And there's an FMV Kamen Rider game for the same platform. Oh please, oh please, oh please, oh please, oh please. The Masked Rider, or Kamen Rider ZO in Japan. Okay, you get an introductory cutscene of the villain being made from trash. A guy wakes up naked in the forest and becomes a bug man. Kid starts getting chased by the monster. Son of a bitch! It's the exact same deal as Power Rangers. Nothing but QuickTime events while a TV show plays in the background. Only, I swear this is true, I think the Kamen Rider game is even worse than the Power Ranger game. The second fight in Kamen Rider is rigged to where you lose health even if you pass certain QuickTime events. So you're given way fewer chances to screw up, and you can even die by winning. And you can't pause the game or skip cutscenes like you could in Power Rangers. And after I beat the second fight, the game goes ages without any actual gameplay. You're just stuck watching the first episode of Masked Rider with fuzzy reception. The Kamen Rider game does at least try to pretend that there's more going on, though. You reach story options where you can choose what happens next like an interactive novel, except I'm pretty sure that straying off the beaten path doesn't actually do anything. Early on, you're given a choice to either follow the kid or investigate a mad scientist, so let's go to his lab. Okay, let's look around. Okay. You know, I'm not quite sure that we got everything. Let's look around again. There we go. And after several minutes of not doing anything, the game just automatically has me follow the kid anyway. So my choices didn't do crap. After several minutes of sitting on my ass, I finally get to the third fight, a bat monster named Dracula. Cheese and rice. And the fight with Dracula is all of 2 button presses. And then I fight a spider monster named Arachnia. Oi, stay in your lane, bub. And I miss 2 events and die instantly. This game is a mess. It's a nightmare hodgepodge of barely improvised gameplay while trying to directly re-air way too much of a television show. I never thought the Power Rangers game would look good. Bram Stoker's Dracula. This is a side-scroller, pretty refreshingly basic for the Sega CD, and it looks like a simple game to play, but trust me, the controls are hot garbage. Literally every single action in the game feels incredibly stiff. Your jumps are super fast, have virtually no range, are nigh uncontrollable, and you can't use any attacks in midair. The first level involves jumping over hazards, and you want to know how badly the jumping is coded? You land on bridge planks, but fall anyway. You jump over bear traps that can't be jumped. Or rather, they can't be jumped in any way that makes sense. You dodge bear traps by stepping on the first side of teeth and then jumping onto the second side of teeth, because that's how sharp spikes poking through your feet work. But let's get down to brass tacks. Your movement speed is agonizingly slow, but the real kicker is your arsenal of attacks. Enemies crawling on the ground you have to kick, but specifically, you have to kick while not moving, because otherwise you do a long kick in the midline and miss your target. And it is incredibly common to turn around to kick an enemy behind you, only for the game to still read you as moving, so you whiff the kick. So enemies on the ground will land shitloads of cheap damage on you. Anything that comes at your torso, you have to gauge whether to punch, long kick, or duck and punch. Any enemy with limbs, you use the long kick because it's the only hit with range. But enemies can also come at your head, and you don't have any attacks that can hit them up there. You just have to duck. And you cross the sheer number of enemies and hazards with how insanely measured and precise you have to be with all your attacks, and you have a mess that's a nightmare to try and play. And that's all before you get to this flying gargoyle mini-boss thing that you can't reach. You have to count on damaging it by accident! The game is also laced with clips from the Francis Ford Coppola movie that are pixelated to shit and look terrible. Yeah, the movie connection means that we're playing as Keanu Reeves, but John Wick, this is not. and when you run out of lives, you get a clip that's cut off to where it just looks stupid. What even was that? But for all my bitching, I did manage to practice up enough to get to the first boss battle with Dracula, and I had an entire extra life remaining. And the game froze. Good! That means I can quit. But Dracula was not the only classic literary monster to grace the Sega CD, because we also got Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Okay, Dracula had footage from a movie. Frankenstein just has footage of a coffin with stuff getting slowly pumped into it for 6 minutes. Just because you can have video doesn't mean that you must! You start the game playing as Frankenstein's monster, wandering the lab and picking up items to solve basic puzzles. The graphics and animations are pretty solid, but it all rockets downhill fast. For you see, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is not a puzzle adventure game. It's a fighting game! A few rooms in, you find a mutant and it turns into a one-on-one fighter with Frankenstein's monster throwing down Mortal Kombat style! You have a punch, a kick, and a block, and your moves do slightly different things if you use them while moving the D-pad, but the controls are really stiff and it feels like you're slower and have crappier range than your opponents do. And yeah, the block stops everything, but enemy hits are so fast and untelegraphed that it doesn't help you much. And already by the second opponent, the AI is jacked up to mop the floor with me! Your second foe is Victor Frankenstein, apparently a master kickboxer. The good doctor devoted himself to the creation of life so that he could beat the shit out of it! I don't think there are any combos, but I figured out how to do all of one special move. Down forward punch makes the monster charge forward, and spamming this one move is the only way that I can reliably deal any damage. When you only get 3 lives, no heals without items between fights, and I'm not sure how to save even though there's a load option on the menu, so even spamming through fights, I'm probably not going to get very far. Once you defeat the doctor, you can go outside where the game seems to become sort of an open world experience. I got into a fight with a dog because yes, a dog is a fully coded fighter in this game, but I wander around with no clue what to do, only to get slaughtered by a few spiders and have to start over. You can beat up dogs, but spiders kill you in seconds. The only other option on the main menu is a misspelled practice fights option. I thought maybe it'd be a tutorial of some kind or a free fighting option, but no! All it does is load up the game's very first fight, and then it kicks you back! Thanks for nothing, asswipe! So it has one gameplay mode, one playable character, useless attacks, no combos, one special move, and no multiplayer option despite being released on a system with 2 controller ports. Has anybody suggested this to Matt McMuscles for his worst fighting game series yet? Wirehead. Oh cripes, it opens with the MGM logo. We think that we're a movie again. The titular Wirehead is a husband and father with some kind of implant that lets people control his body with a remote, and one day he gets a warning from a doctor that everyone involved with the project is being hunted down and tortured.
Ned, I don't know how to say this. They've tortured me.
Good! You made a machine that lets any rando overwrite this guy's free will and make him a prisoner in his own body. You deserve to get your testicles hooked to a car battery. Anyway, 2 agents knock on Wirehead's door to capture him, and you control the poor bastard as he goes on the run. A set of arrows will appear on the corner of the screen, and you press 1 to select where to go. And the overwhelming vast majority of the time, all but one of these directions kills you instantly. And not only is it virtually impossible to guess which of the directions is the correct choice at any given time, but if you stop to analyze the screen for clues, the game kills you anyway, because you have about 2 or 3 seconds to make each choice. Screw up 9 times and you start the entire game over. And I know that sounds like a lot, but I burnt most of my lives my first run just trying to leave the damn house! The entire game is just pure memorization of directional keys that are taking endless notes about what buttons to press in what order, neither of which are fun options! You know, at the start of the game, Wirehead's kids use the remote to have him do insane gymnastics and crap. Where did I miss the prompt to have this guy flying spin kick both the agents and just knock them out? If you suffer through enough of the game, they do get to some neat stunts and fun hijinks, like openly ripping off Temple of Doom by paragliding off an inflatable raft, or when you just walk into a Wild West town for no reason. But those are the bits that are a movie. The entirety of the actual gameplay is built on luck and chance and open bullshit!
I can't jump out of a plane! Hey, you're good!
Loadstar, The Legend of Tully Bodine. This game opens with a full-blown science fiction movie setting up your protagonist, a space smuggler named Tully Bodine. He walks into a space bar, and about 50 people recognize him and come over for chit-chat.
That's Tully Bodine.
Where you been, Tully? Tully?
Hey, what'll it be?
Tully? Tully!
Really, I'm ahead of Bannon.
Bodine. Tully Bodine?
Tully Bodine.
Okay, is that everyone? Is there anybody in the bathroom that I need to chat up while I'm here? Oh, and the space sheriff is played by Ned Beatty. If you can tell with this pixelization. This is another abusively long intro cutscene. This one is 8 minutes long. But hey, at least stuff is happening! Frankenstein! Microcosm! Tully is run off the moon by the sheriff and has to take a shady smuggling job in his ship, the Loadstar, and then the game starts. You're flying down a series of tracks that make up this moon base to get to your shipment, shooting down police drones that savage you with bullets and kamikazes. It sounds like a basic rail shooter, but I've played this for over an hour, and I can't get past the first level. Throughout the stage, you have to make or avoid turns by placing your cursor on specific regions of the screen at certain times, and you need to get to this observatory off in the distance that looks like a ball sack. It's not always clear where you have to turn, and it's piss easy to make turns on accident because you have to aim on the wrong side of the screen to shoot the robots. And it's a really friggin' long way to your destination. It's like having to make 50 blind coin flips in a row, and if you screw up one, you go back, only you don't know how far back because everything looks the damn same. You're never sure if you're making progress, and the game just ends up looping forever. And when I did finally get close to the damn observatory, the robots went completely apeshit and started bombarding me with about 10 lasers at a time. What could a space trucker have possibly done to piss off this many robots? I had to puzzle out the controls on my own. B triggers a green cursor that deflects blasters, C triggers a yellow cursor that shoots enemies, B and C at once raises a shield, and A makes a honking sound. That's it. I don't know what in the living hell A does, it just makes a honking sound! But the game shoves so ridiculously many enemies down your throat in the home stretch that the shield and deflector barely help you! Why won't you end? The only impressive thing is when you die. If you crash into another ship on the road, you get a cutscene of the Loadstar exploding while Tully has his flesh stripped off to the bone! Jeez, that looked like practical effects. Somebody went all out on live-action production value for friggin' Loadstar, The Legend of Tully Bodine. When you get a game over, you find out there are only 3 levels anyway, and this is so much like a movie that it even has a trailer for another game. Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. Actually, holy shit, that looks kind of fun. Hold on a sec. Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, the second Cataclysm. Well, for being a game about shooting dinosaurs in a Cadillac, this game's story is friggin' dark, man. Apparently the world ended from natural disasters and societal collapse in the far-off future year of 2020! Yeah, sorry that you had to find out this way. Mechanics led some tribes of humans to survive with their knowledge of machines, and 450 years later, humans tried returning to their old cities, only to find them infested with dinosaurs! This is so friggin' stupid. I guess I could pay attention for a little longer. 2 survivors have a vision of a second apocalypse and head out in a Cadillac to stop it, so you have to drive and shoot your way through a jungle brimming with dinosaurs. It looks like a decent shooter, the controls are responsive, you have unlimited ammo, and the game has a cool charge shot mechanic where you can hold the fire button to increase the size of your cursor to blast multiple things at once. But this is a Sega CD game, so of course there has to be dickery afoot. If you touch a single dinosaur, it's an instant death. If you clip a single downed tree that covers half the road, it's an instant death. You get 5 lives to reach the end of the stage, or else you start over. You're supposed to shoot out obstacles so they don't hurt you, But what's the point if the gun doesn't work on the stuff that kills you in one hit? I don't know, maybe I'd have more luck dodging all this crap if there wasn't an inexplicable dense fog to where I can't see more than a few feet ahead of myself at any given time. The controls tend to lock so that you careen into obstacles without a chance to save yourself now and then, but the biggest problem is these levels are too damn long. You see that timer in the corner of the screen? That thing started at 60 minutes. The first level of dodging non-stop insta-kill hazards with little room for error is over 10 minutes long. Okay, that tears it. Sega CD devs were just assholes. I used emulation tools to save scum my way to the end of the first level, only to find that the second level is just more of the same level. Only now there are, I think, invisible traps that trigger a cutscene with a pterodactyl. And of course the game is still just constant dodging of instant death traps. I am so over this bullshit. The Lawnmower Man. The Lawnmower Man is a movie about Pierce Brosnan using virtual reality to give his gardener Job super intelligence until he becomes a godlike virtual being who controls computers. Wow, if he called Job an Ignis, we could settle this with a game of Yu-Gi-Oh! The video game, I think, is about entering virtual reality to stop Job before he takes over the world. You do this by playing a series of minigames, starting with flying a glider. Well, this doesn't seem so bad. It's just some basic quick time events. What? I pushed left! Did the game miss the input, or do you have to... Oh, you have to hold the button to make sure that the damn game reads your commands. Okay, now we're good. Time to just go up. What the fuck? The quick time events run on inverted controls? Oh, you little bitch! The entire game has laggy controls that barely feel responsive, and I'm pretty sure that it only uses one button. It's like they heard that an Atari 2600 controller has the same plug as the Genesis and took it as a design requirement. Alright, we got past the minute of QuickTime events. They have some pixelated scenes from the movie, naturally. And now we get to the second minigame, which is a wall of anonymous symbols. What? You have to pick one from each column. You get no feedback when you get something wrong. And if you guess wrong 3 times, you die. I have no idea what I'm doing here. My best guess is that you're looking for the symbol in each set that doesn't belong. But how do you guess when the game just throws up anonymous letters and numbers for some of the sets? I don't know your moon logic, dillweed! Seriously, just look at this column here. Is the answer 39 because it's the only number divisible by 3? Is it 65 because it's the only multiple of 5? Is the answer 71 because it's the only number whose individual digits don't sum to a 2-digit number? Oh my god, that was right? But, okay. And then, I don't even know. You get taken to a circuit board. I don't even know what my controls do here. The screen just moves around. I won? Oh, cool. I won, I guess. And then a voice tells you to jump, and I die because you're supposed to jump with the D-pad now, and then you jump or duck obstacles, and the game missed a prompt, and I died for no reason. I don't know what's going on, and I am so done trying to make sense of the delusions of crazy people. Who shot Johnny Rock? Uh-oh, American Laser Games. I've heard of them, and nothing I've heard has been good. This is a light gun shooter where you play a noir detective out to solve the murder of a singer by blowing away every gangster that you can find. The visuals feel even more murky and pixelated than any of the games I've looked at so far, and that's gonna be a major problem very soon. You watch a video play out until someone in the environment whips out a gun and tries to shoot you. If you shoot them first, the game continues, otherwise you die and go back. Yeah, there's just one tiny problem with that. You have no idea which people in the videos are enemies until after they pull out a weapon, at which point you have about 1 second at best before they shoot you dead. Meaning you basically have no means of telling whether someone's an enemy or not until after they've already killed you. So your only recourse is to just die over and over until you've memorized the level layouts, gained psychic precognition to kill everyone before they can shoot you. And yeah, the game is meant to be played with a light gun or mouse peripheral, but I'm almost certain that it wouldn't help too much. Those of you watching this on a computer, grab your mouse and play along. Dead! Expiration! Mortis! And then this asshole, I managed to shoot him, and it didn't count and I died anyway. I think insta-death is just the game's way of saying, don't go in there, dumbass! I think the game is very aware that you'll be dying constantly because the doctor that patches you up has a lot of clips to mock you.
Yeah, patching you up anymore is like patching up a sieve. Nurse, get me a hose. You'd make a good sprinkler. We're gonna have to shorten your nickname, Slugger, to Slug.
It's actually kind of funny. You don't have lives, you have money, and you get a game over if you can't cover $400 for the hospital bill. So the gangsters don't kill you, the American healthcare system kills you.
Out of money, out of luck. That's the name of the game.
Slam City with Scottie Pippen. This is a basketball game where you have to beat 4 opponents one-on-one to play against professional player Scottie Pippen, which ain't gonna happen because I can't figure out how the hell this game works. I'm not even sure what the controls actually do. If you have the ball, B dribbles and A shoots, C jumps, I think, but I'm not sure what that does. And if you're lucky, you can dribble past your opponent for a point, and sometimes when you shoot your ball, the opponent just knocks it out of your hand, but sometimes you shoot and it begins a clip of having to push C again to aim your shot, only I have no idea how you gauge the height, and the aiming portion always catches you by surprise because you don't know if your shot is going to work. How did a sports game get so damn complicated? The few times I get a shot off at the basket, I just miss. You get no feedback or target to know what's wrong. And I'm not even remotely sure how you play when you're on defense. There's one button to jump and one to swipe at the ball, I think. Except neither button ever seemed to do anything. All of the inputs are for commands so abstract and finicky and ineffective that I can barely even figure out what I'm able to do, let alone understand the game's mechanics to figure out how this thing is played. I even tried turning on the game's training mode, but all that did was flash a sign that says break on the side of the screen. I don't know what that means! This game shipped on 4 discs, by the way. Every individual opponent takes up an entire CD. Does that speak to how grossly overcomplicated and convoluted the game is, or what? But at least I can get some enjoyment from the crowd overacting to how much I suck.
Yo, crush him like a walnut and sprinkle him on some salad. And put some dressing on the boy.
This must be step on something soft with.
Even he didn't get that joke. But Slam City is only the tip of a particular iceberg for the Sega CD. It came to us from a developer called Digital Pictures and is labeled as a U-Direct interactive film, meaning that it plays like butt on purpose because it's supposed to be like a movie. And it's not the only Digital Pictures wannabe film on the console. It's not even the worst one. Prize Fighter. This Digital Pictures classic is a boxing game that doesn't frickin' work! You have separate buttons for left or right punches, and pushing one while moving the D-pad will launch hooks, jabs, or uppercuts. You can also hold B to block and push left or right to bob and weave. It sounds like all the inputs are there to make for a deep fighting game, only it doesn't matter because none of your punches land on the opponent. You can mash the punch buttons all damn day, maybe 5% of them will get through, because, according to the training indicators that I turned on in the options, enemies are only vulnerable for a few seconds at a time to one specific attack at a time for about 1 to 2 seconds apiece. I was never able to discern any kind of pattern to how any of this works. I think the game just runs on a random number generator that wants you to die. Also, because of the game's structure where you are literally fighting against a static movie, nothing that you do actually affects what your opponent does. You can't stun them or force them to defense or gain any kind of momentum. They just steamroll past whatever you do. Oh, and you better win fast because if time runs out, your opponent heals between rounds. Great. And now the training indicators are gone for no apparent reason. Game just shrugs, you're on your own, dumbass. I know the game has a leveling up mechanic where you can assign points to your fists or your health bar, but blow me if I know where to get more of them. It's probably a grind to extend the game for the poor sods who are able to clear the first level. Low-key, the most annoying part of the game is that your opponent keeps bringing you in for a big hug against his sweaty man chest, so the game has a clean break to cut to the next video clip. And no, I don't know why the game is in black and white. I'd guess that they want you to think that this is some kind of deep sports epic. The game constantly stops dead to show you a kid in the audience who walks with crutches because his dad died in a boxing ring, and it is apparently 100% on your shoulders to win 4 fights in a row so that he can be inspired to walk again.
His father was Cruncher McKay, one of the greats. Died of a heart attack during a championship bout. The doctors say it's all in his head. But the boy hasn't walked without crutches since that day.
No, I'm not kidding. That is the actual story of the game. You have to cure Tiny Tim by beating 4 professional boxers in one night. Yeah, get used to crutches, you little bastard. Sewer Shark. This game's about a weird sci-fi setting where I guess the world is sustained by some giant planetary sewer network, and pilots have the job of blasting through the sewers, cleaning up mutants to work their way to the paradise of Solar City. This is almost kinda sort of explained by your co-pilot, and this guy is gold.
Now until you earn a better one, your call sign, dog meat. You're gonna owe me big dog meat. And what's my payback? 1,000,000 pounds of tube steak.
Sewer Shark looks like a regular rail shooter blasting monsters on a scrolling video, but it's not. You have a navigator robot calling out turns that flash at the top of the screen, and once you're out of the tutorial phase, if you miss a single turn, you die. You also need to pay close attention to your energy, which drains faster if you fire indiscriminately, and if you run out of energy, you die. And I had to look up in an online manual how the recharge station works because nothing in the game itself explains it. Oh, and don't get complacent that the monsters don't actually hurt you, because if you don't kill an arbitrary and unlisted number by certain checkpoints, you die. Oh, and there's a hydrogen meter at the bottom that you need to watch out for, because if it fills, you need to mash C to fire a flare, or else you die. And that's all well and good. I kind of enjoy the sci-fi visual design and the techno music. The controls are really responsive. You turn with a button so it plays a damn sight better than Loadstar, and the actors are a riot.
Further municipal funds, that's such an obvious boondoggle.
That's it! You're a boondoggle! I need a drink!
Honestly, I was really enjoying Sewer Shark as a different and original spin on a rail shooter, until the other shoe dropped. Half an hour into the game, I failed a score checkpoint without warning and died, and there are no extra lives, continues, or checkpoints. You need to beat the entire game in one flawless run with no less than 4 things that will kill you instantly. So yeah, the fresh concept for a rail shooter loses its novelty really fast. But now we're really getting into Garbage Day. Feast your eyes on the digital slop that is Power Factory. This game is licensed on the band The CNC Music Factory, and it opens with a bunch of people working at a place where they smash CDs with hammers. I get it. They had the same thing with World of Simulators. You come across 3 doors, bouncers yell at you, and then you meet 2 factory workers that are overworked and abused by their bosses.
You didn't have to bring any water with you, did you?
No talking! Shut up! Oh, and did someone order an electrolyte replacement fluid?
I don't know what's going on. All I'm getting out of this is that it really sucks to work for CNC Music Factory. Anyway, you get hired on to make a music video, and you're taken to an editing suite. A song starts playing with 3 feeds of videos running at the bottom of the screen. You use the A, B, and C buttons to switch between which feed you want spliced into your video at that given time. And you use the control pad to select and activate video effects like a strobe, lyrics, or a blur to make the video incomprehensible. More so. And that's all mildly interesting for primitive at-home editing software. Except this is the entire game. They tried to gamify something that, at best, is a primitive creation tool, like adding objectives to Microsoft Paint. I really should have been more specific when I asked you to draw a bunny. You also can't pause or rewind anything, so you're just grabbing clips on the fly in real time to haphazardly cobble together a video out of other pre-made videos. You also only have 3 songs to pick from, and the first one that I did, Things That Make You Go was 5 damn minutes long. It feels like an eternity sitting there twiddling with a menu, and then it feels like another eternity when they make you watch your crappy video back again after it's finished. You can't fast forward or skip it. And the game does actually grade your video, so somebody pops up to tell me I suck, and then it just keeps going.
Do it! But you didn't do it, did you? So move out the way and let another dude play. Get out of here!
The only actual entertainment value the game has comes from the weird sketches of these factory workers that play at random between the quote-unquote gameplay segments, mainly for your jaw to drop at what in the actual hell you're watching. Who was smoking what when they wrote this? One of these factory workers is Phil Lamar, by the way, the voice of Green Lantern, Static Shock, Samurai Jack, Ollie Williams, and Insane Toothbrush Man! Eventually, I started to figure out the game's structure. The bouncer doors are your level select where you pick a song to edit, and the workers will tell you what footage you need to look for and what kind of filters to slap on the video for a high score. But the clips that you need to look for are mere seconds long apiece, and they pop up with 0 warning even if you pay attention to the fustercluck that is this interface. And how do you know how much of a filter to use to where the game will like it? The directions are so vague, it's pretty much guaranteed that the game will reject whatever you make, so the game just loops forever.
Now make this video with lots of dance, but bump Mr. Wheelie Boss in the black shirt, man. Turn the CNC logo upside down. Strobe the dancers, put in lots of rolling stuff. Cars, wheels, everything that rolls. Now do like I said and make my video.
This game is terrible, and you know what's even worse than a bad game? When it has 3 sequels! Make my video crisscross! The framing device for this one is a DJ that has to make crisscross music videos on demand for callers. People call for music videos on the radio. That is not a thing, but in fairness, I don't think the DJ is all there.
Got my video editor out there, hooked up and chilling in the control room awaiting your scenario for the miggity Mac Daddy and the diggity Daddy Mac crisscross.
Blink uncontrollably if you're having a stroke and you need a hospital. The interface makes it a lot more clear how the hell you play, but that's where the positives end. Listen to this gibberish giving you instructions.
Switch the front to the back and the opposite thing. Be flipping and flopping like a boomerang.
What? It's the same game as Power Factory, only with less fun and varied characters in the cinematics. Oh, and the game flat out told me that I made a horrible video.
It was bad, righteous, you know, but that ain't quite the Power Mix, man.
Right before telling me that I got the high score. On a table that shows no actual scores. Again. What?
Starring the top of hip-hop, the Pac-Man who ain't no white man.
What? Make my video, Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. This one's about a brother and sister who are trying to make the ultimate Marky Mark music video, meaning they must be bored out of their minds. You get to pick some people to ask for advice on the video, like a random boxer who I'm sure is just the biggest Marky Mark fan, the cool girls at the school, and some of the people that you can ask are the most paper-thin XPs of Bill and Ted to ever exist.
Hey, wait a minute. What if we have 5 different shots of pretty girls?
Yeah. Let's have a shot of the girl taking off the stocking.
Excellent.
This one almost seems like the easiest of the series since they don't put as many requirements on the videos, but the first time I played, I got a video that actually passed Bill and Ted's standards. And do you know what happened?
Okay.
Nothing! The game just rolled credits 15 minutes in! And that was it. But the absolute worst of the series has to be Make My Video in Excess. The premise of this one is that two really bitchy women are hogging the pool table and televisions at a bar, and they won't leave until someone makes the perfect NXS video, which, sure, that's a plausible sequence of events. The video sketches aren't even fun in this one. You're stuck with two annoying pool sharks, a hapless nerd and aloof douchebag hitting on said sharks, and two other annoying women insisting that we play some Megadeth. And weirdly, they keep trying to lean on sex appeal to keep you playing the game, like they're trying to trick you into thinking you'll see these women naked if you do well enough. And I'm not even joking, Bill and Ted are in this one too!
Ask me something hard. Use waves, dude. Oh, excellent. Go light on that underwater stuff.
I joke, but Bill and Ted are bros who want you to end the game faster. They just told me to avoid the main video's underwater footage, and again, I beat the game within 12 minutes of booting up.
Okay, that was okay, right? Alright, but it's easier if I show you, okay? Alright, now this is good for him here. Alright, now this is Succola, you know, for the dweebs from the Inland Empire.
Every game in the series has a free creation mode, though each one differs on how you access it. And you can save videos in this mode, which is nice, I guess, but it's just the same game, only without having to give a shit about requirements, and you can make better music videos using free software these days. And these games aged like milk because every single band in the Make My Video series had disbanded or quit within 4 years of the game's releases. This series was a curse on everyone. But honestly, it has to be a toss-up what qualifies less to be a video game. The Make My Video series or fellow Digital Pictures disaster? Kids on Sight. This one, I think, is an educational game about showing off construction vehicles for very young children. The excavator that scoops dirt, the bulldozer that apparently just pushes garbage off a hill, a steamroller to flatten gravel, and a wrecking ball to smash very tiny buildings. After a quick introduction, you get to drive each vehicle. And by drive, I mean you push 3 buttons. A and C just move the vehicle between a whole 4 available screens, and B is a generic use prompt. You hit the use button 3 times on the correct screen, and then you win. No, really, like, that's the whole game. The closest the game gets to requiring actual thought is the excavator, since you have to scoop dirt and also dump it into the truck. My God! You have to hit the button on 2 screens in a specific order! What stunning gameplay! The game isn't even good at its premise of educating kids about construction projects because you're just doing random tasks in a void when it would have been much more interesting to show the actual process of building a structure. The whole time you're guided by 3 workers, a professional lady, a lawsuit magnate who's a hazard to everyone around him, and this poor bastard named Nuts who gets buried in dirt, his car wrecked, flattened by a steamroller, and crushed by a wrecking ball, all in the name of bad comedy. Yeah, the educational game telling kids that running over someone with a steamroller is no big deal. The game lets you do stupid and highly dangerous things by pressing B on the wrong screens to smash power lines, wreck water mains, or swing wrecking balls right next to other workers, and it's all played for laughs, just interactive Easter eggs for the kids on the off chance you want this slow-ass game to go even slower, because seriously, every single action you take leads to a several-second-long video sequence. It is ungodly boring. Even screwing around, the game only takes half an hour to see in its entirety. About the only cool thing is that they show you an actual demolition once you've done all 4 vehicles. A demolition with a man inside, of course. This company would be sued into the ground so fast that it's not even funny. You know, if these vehicles all turned out to be Transformers, that would be a much better game, especially because I've seen what a steamroller Autobot would look like. But do you want to know what the real shitter is? Kids on Sight was remastered for modern consoles. This crap is available on PlayStation 4 right now, along with remasters of some of the company's other titles like Night Trap, Corpse Killer, Double Switch, and Ground Zero Texas. Why? Why does this crap get ported, but not Surgical Strike, which deserves it? And they want $15 for this garbage! Again, Kids on Site is half an hour long if you stall! What the hell? There are quite a few more digital pictures games on the Sega CD, but I don't want them to take over this entire video. And plus, I didn't know they were so prolific when I started doing this. I do, however, want to share this quote from Tom Zito, co-founder of Digital Pictures, whose name is front and center in the credits of all their games. "We're betting, ultimately, when there's an interactive cable converter sitting atop everyone's TV set, that something that feels like Citizen Kane, or at least Leave It to Beaver, will have more legs than something that feels like Mario or Princess Toadstool."
$1 million of tube steak.
But the miggity Mac Daddy.
Okay.
Everybody rush now!
Alright, now this is good for him here. Alright, now this is so cool, you know, for the dudes from the Inland Empire.
But despite their prolific attempts, they did not produce what I've been told is the worst game on the Sega CD. According to Re-Res, via an old-ass video that's buried deep in their channel, that dubious honor goes to Tomcat Alley. This is a jet fighter game where you play as a pilot assigned to fight a rogue Soviet general who's out to, I don't know, probably take over the world. If you were expecting any kind of flight sim, then you can eat shit. But if you were even expecting something as low-hanging fruit as a rail shooter, no. Basically, you use a cursor to issue commands for your character in mid-flight. You hover over and select hotspots to head to mission waypoints or to select an anonymous enemy that you'd like to try to fight. From there, the game just devolves into a nonsensical barrage of clips. Sometimes you'll be chased by an enemy and have to either launch flares or try your luck flying away, and sometimes you'll be chasing an enemy and have to fire a missile at them. And that part right there, shooting down the enemies, is where this whole thing falls apart, because your weapons don't work worth a shit! To hit an enemy, you have to move your cursor over them, hope that the game locks on, and then push the fire button while the cursor still says that you have a lock on. Except well over half the time, in the split second between you spotting the lock on and your brain sending the signal to your finger to press the button, the lock on breaks and you miss your shot. So it's pretty much completely impossible to shoot down enemies with any remote degree of consistency. And that's before we get to how insanely difficult it is to draw a bead on enemies in the first place, because look at this shit! This so-called simulator is having fighter jets dance back and forth like the animator was on crack. The flight combat in Hot Shots is more realistic. Oh, and you have limited weapons. You can only carry 9 missiles, and the second level has 8 planes that you need to shoot down. Do the math. You can afford to miss exactly once with these broken-ass mechanics and useless controls. And I'm playing on easy. What in the name of hell is hard like? Do they give you sticks to throw at the planes and hope for the best? Oh, wait, what's that? You see another missile icon in the corner for an alternate weapon that I can switch to? Well, the joke's on you, asshole, because you can change weapons, but the other missiles don't work. I had to look this crap up in an online manual. Your standard missiles are meant to be short-range homing weapons for dogfighting, while your secondary missiles are long-range and radar-guided, which is code for doesn't work worth rat piss on any of the enemies. I think the long-range weapons are meant for objectives, since the first mission ends with you needing to shoot down a bomber, and with no explanation, only the radar missiles work. So on top of everything else, you have to friggin' guess which weapons might actually work on any given target. Oh, and when I didn't shoot the bomber within about 5 seconds because my weapons didn't work, I had to start the mission over. Thanks for that! Even the game's interface is a pain in the ass. The cursor moves way too slowly, it always seems to reset to the top of the screen, and the icons to work your plane are clustered so tightly together that it's easy to click the wrong thing. Oh, and guess how the controller's buttons work. Go on, guess. A shoots, B selects options, and C disables the user interface and takes away the commands that you need to play. What the hell, man? Why not use C to switch weapons or fire flares, anything but a make the game suck worse button? Also, I managed to eject from my plane at one point. No clue how I managed that. You only get one life, but the game has a save function to where you can pick up on a mission later. Oh wow, an actual continue function. I'll just shut off the game and come back to it later, and of course, that save dies and you have to start over as soon as you turn off the console. I swear the only good thing about the game is that you don't have to shoot down every enemy by yourself. If a bogey gets on your tail and you dodge them for long enough, they'll just leave. Seriously, more times than I could count, I noticed enemies just disappear out of the game for no explicit reason. You aren't told that your wingmen shot them down or that they fled the area. They're just gone. And to be honest, I'm pretty sure that this is a game bug because it'd be so on brand if the best part of the game was an accident. I get that this is yet another Sega CD game that's trying to play like a movie, but unlike all the other movie games I've looked at today, the clips feel so badly randomized that it's completely physically impossible to follow any kind of action that's going on. Most of the action's in broad daylight, and you'll see shots that are at sunset. It's just a jumble of random edits to where the entire game is gibberish. You don't even get the immersion from Midnight Raiders or the funny bad FMV quality from so many other games. Unless you count the casual sexism of your protagonist telling his female wingman to get laid.
Archie, we gotta figure out a new way for you to release some of that tension.
Yeah, right, Flyboy. In your dreams.
Everything about the game that's not maddening is just boring. And that kind of sums up the Sega CD in a nutshell. The bulk of its games weren't good, but they're at least interesting. Most of them have a special charm that's unique to the console and may never be replicated. For better or for worse, the Sega CD was kind of a beautiful mess. Which is more than can be said for what I'm talking about next time. Yes, many of you are already aware that this video is, coincidentally, uploading on a very particular special date. Tune in next time, where we will put the fun in a funeral.